This video is sponsored by our friends at Sweetwater. If you have ever been to a professional recording studio or even one of those totally epic home studio or project studio setups before, you've probably seen one of these bad boys. These are called patch bays. All right, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Masters and I am an audio engineer and a musician who's been recording and mixing for over 18 years now. I've worked with clients ranging from Weezer to the Swedish metal band Ghost, Sum 41, all the way to John Legend. Now, for better or for worse, I've had the opportunity to build and set up over a dozen studios from the West Coast all the way to Nashville. And outside of the music side of things, I also just love a functional studio setup. So with that being said, again, if you're new here and you love recording and studio stuff just in general, hit that subscribe button. Now the question is, what the f is a patch bay? Do you even need one? Now let me ask you another question. Do you have any idea what your goals are relating to your career and the studio work that you want to do? If so, I would love to hear them. One of the goals that I have outside of not moving my studio anymore is building a bunch of these mini video courses that cover all of the different topics that I didn't quite understand when I started my recording and studio journey 15 plus years ago, almost 20 years, holy crap. Now, one of the very few things I've learned in my short life is that if you want to start accomplishing goals, one, you have to know what they are, but two, you have to start somewhere. And what I've been doing in the background is I've started working on these courses. I've got 16 of them planned. 2 of them are released so far. The latest one just came out and it's on the patch bay. And since that's what we're talking about today, I'm going to link it down in the description for you to check out. It's $20. That's it. Back to the first question. What the f is a patch bay? A patch bay is essentially a hub somewhere centrally located in a studio that connects to all of the inputs and outputs of all of the equipment that you use in your studio, as well as all of the tie lines where you plug your microphones in or your DIs in. All of those inputs and outputs go to this one place so you can patch them around and switch them between the different pieces of equipment that you have without actually getting behind the gear and having to move every single cable everywhere. You have it all in one spot, so you can just move this mic into this interface or this preamp or this compressor or this input or that input. It's all one neat space, easy to control, easy to find and understand. That's a patch bay. Now the next question, do you even need a patch bay? Now this is something that you're going to be able to answer for yourself, and here's a couple things that you can consider in figuring out if you do need one. Number one, are you doing a lot of recording? Meaning like actual audio signal, plugging a microphone in to an interface, plugging multiple microphones or multiple audio signals at the same time. Are you doing that every single day? Do you think that in the future you will buy more microphones? You will want to be able to record more sources at the same time or more microphones on a same source? Talking to you drummers. Do you think that that is in your future, or are you already there and you need to have a better system to be able to control all this stuff that you're doing and make your life a little simpler? If that's the case, then yes, maybe a patch bay can be helpful for you. If you're not recording more than 4 or 6 or 8 microphones at a time, or maybe you aren't using outboard equipment, meaning compressors, outboard mic pre's, EQs, you're not trying to do any summing or anything like that, then maybe you don't need a patch bay, which is honestly great. It's a simple life. Here's a good example. Producers, or as they're known, track guys. People who are producing tracks mostly in the box. You've got a MIDI controller or maybe even an audio interface that has built-in microphone preamps on it. You can connect right into it. If you don't think that that's going to be changing in the future, you can work with that and you aren't going to need a patch bay. If you're like me and a lot of other people and you are curious about a lot of gear and you like changing stuff, a patch bay may be in your future. Now, I will say I got my first patch bay in 2020, I believe. Got the patch bay before I had a ton of gear. I think I had an interface that had 8 built-in mic pre's in it, but I had the goal of adding external mic pre's and outboard equipment into my studio, and I had the experience of working in a commercial studio for over 6 years. So I used patch bays with lots of gear and consoles and lots of microphones. Obviously understand the benefit and the long-term flexibility of having and using a patch bay. Now patch bays, and the way that I went about it are, I got a TT patch bay from Audio Accessories, which is probably one of the most expensive TT patch bays you can get. I really liked that model because it is very just plain black, simple, and there's a little extra space on the labels for it. So I kind of liked that, but I wound up getting another one, and then ultimately I switched over to a Switchcraft patch bay. And the reason is just because the Normalink switches are on the front, which actually is super duper useful as you're building and expanding your studio setup. But that's kind of getting off in the weeds. But my point is, I got the first patch bay, which was a 96-point TT patch bay, because I had a long-term plan of getting more gear. Now, even though I didn't have all of the gear that I wanted, I had 2 external microphone preamps, and I knew that I was going to manifest getting a lot more gear. I just didn't know how and when. But starting with a patch bay that has more I/O connectivity, like a 96-point patch bay, allows for that expandability. And because I was in the TT, let's call it, format, I knew that that was going to be the most space efficient way to add patch bays to my studios. The alternative would be a 1/4-inch patch bay, which is a lot cheaper, like so much cheaper. And if you're just looking to get one right now and you want to save as much money and you can't wait and you just want to do it right now, the 1/4-inch patch bay is so much cheaper. The downside of going with it is you are sort of buying into this 1/4-inch system of 1/4-inch cables. And if you want to add a lot more gear to your setup, then you're using these 1/4-inch patch bays, which, because the cables are so much larger, you're essentially getting half the amount of connections per rack unit. Now, if you don't anticipate having a lot of connections, then that might be perfect for you. I am a drummer. I am one of those failed drummers who turned audio engineers, which I know there's a lot of us. So I knew that I wanted to have somewhere between 12, maybe 16 microphone inputs or tie lines just for drums. And now, fast forward 4.5 years, there's 5 patch bays, and I think we've used almost every single connection to them. We've got a lot of gear and a lot of things, microphones patched live, and a lot of uses, and that's just sometimes what happens. You start a studio, and then 4 years later, you have too much stuff, and you need more sessions. If you want to book sessions, go to my website. But the upside of the 1/4-inch patch bay is it is cheaper to get into. You can get it now. The upside of the TT is it's more of a long-term plan for space efficiency, but it's more upfront cost. There's also going to be some differences in the snakes. I actually talk about all this stuff in the patch bay course that I have. Here's another plug for it. But we go over the pros and cons of all of the different types of patch bays, the different types of connections, why you might use one over the other, how to understand normaling, how to lay everything out, how to actually design the labels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all in one fairly short, digestible mini video course that you can actually finish. The thing that kind of drives me nuts about a lot of the courses that I buy is I never finish them. I get them, and then I just don't finish them. I want to. I desperately want to. But these I want to be digestible. So you can, if not watch it all in one go, watch it all in 2 goes. And if you really are trying to add some flexibility and expandability to your studio, this will be your guide to doing it. Now, obviously, if you're going to be picking up a patch bay or any cabling or anything related to your studio, the best place to pick it up is Sweetwater. Along with getting all of the supplies you need for your studio at Sweetwater, they also have a great cable designer section of their website if you are looking to get very specific snakes or types of attachments that you need different attachments on each side of your snake. I use it quite often. Sometimes on the consultations, I'll help people sort of plan the studios that they're setting up, and their cable finder feature is really, really useful. Also, you can set up these wish lists on the website if you're just trying to organize all of the products that you're planning on getting. I have like 1,000 wish lists on my account. So if you're setting that up, check out Sweetwater to pick up and get the best deals on the gear that you're looking for. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video.